Good evening. Welcome to the eighth lecture of the online lecture series on language, literature, and cultural studies organized by the English Language Teachers Interaction Forum, LTIF. Let me introduce myself. I'm Dr. Praveen, coordinator of the online programs of LTIF. Now, Mr. Mohanan, an active member of the online committee, will brief you about the activities of LTIF.
It gives me great pleasure to give you a brief account of what LTIF does. The spirit of LTIF is quite evident in its vision statement. LTIF lives in and works for the villages, adapting very non-traditional and non-conventional approaches and strategies. LTIF provides training to the teachers catering to the individual professional development needs. LTIF also conducts workshops and English enrichment programs for learners with a view to helping them gain the academic needs and aspirations, and also with an objective of preparing them for the 21st century life. Our mission is empowering rural India through English language education.
Thank you, Mr. Mohanan, for that fine introduction. Today's speaker is Mr. Rajeevan, formerly of Cambridge University Press. He will be delivering a lecture on continuous professional development. The title of his talk is Once a Teacher, Not Always a Teacher. I request Ms. Vinija, who's a faculty of Diet Thrissur, to welcome and introduce today's speaker. Vinija.
Mr. Rajeevan Karal has been a teacher, teacher trainer, and trainer since 1973. A major part of his teacher career was spent at the English and Foreign Languages University, Hyderabad. Later, he moved to the publishing industry and retired as the Senior Vice President of Cambridge University Press, India. He has authored many course books on teaching various aspects of English. Post-retirement, he continues to pursue his key areas of interest of content development, self-learning, and training and development. Today, in this evening, we are going to listen to this eminent, highly experienced educationalist on the topic, Once a Teacher, Not Always a Teacher. On behalf of LTIF and all other participants, I extend a very warm welcome to Rajeevan, sir. Hearty welcome to you, sir.
Good afternoon and welcome to the webinar. At the outset, I must commend everyone who is involved in the work being done by LTIF, the commendable work that the organization has been doing for the almost past 2 decades. I have known Dr. Bhaskaran Nair for many, many years, and he has been a close friend of mine. Okay, when he asked me to do this webinar, I sent this topic, Once a Teacher, Not Always a Teacher. Well, as all of us know, the age-old saying is, once a teacher, always a teacher. But then I thought, we need to break that myth and tell ourselves that once a teacher, I need not always be a teacher. Well, there are ways in which we can grow and develop. When you stop learning, you stop growing. This is something that all of us know very well. Okay, just to give you a heads up on what I'm going to talk about, I would like to begin by talking about why some people don't grow and develop, and what are the areas in which we need to grow, and then finally, how to grow and develop. Let me talk about my journey of growth and development. 48 years ago, when I started my teaching career as a primary school teacher, I had the challenge to teach a bunch of primary school kids who were extremely brilliant. Well, that was perhaps one of my most unforgettable part of my career. The kids happened to be children of scientists and engineers. I was working in the Kendriya Vidyalaya at Kalpakam, and all the children were children of this atomic energy departments, engineers and scientists. And these kids were extremely brilliant. And they knew that I was a novice teacher, absolutely new to the profession. And very often, they would want to catch me on the wrong foot, and they would ask me questions every day, questions to test my knowledge. Well, I must tell you that I still remember a few students who were in grade 4, class 4, and they had already read all the complete works of Shakespeare. I couldn't believe it, but they were so brilliant. And they would often ask me questions. And every day I had to face lots and lots of questions about the English language. And I didn't have answers to many of those questions, honestly. So I had to tell them, I'm sorry, I don't know the answer. But then I would always tell them, I'd go back, refer to the things in the dictionary or wherever, come back and give the answer. Sometimes, of course, their questions were very genuine questions, but very often I noticed that they were trying to catch me on the wrong foot. That's when I told myself, look, what are you doing in this profession? You don't seem to be competent enough to teach. So what you need to do is, besides whatever you have learned, you need to learn further while you are a teacher. So my first the process of my growth started out of necessity. I needed to survive in the classroom. And remember, those were days when there was no mobile phone or internet or whatever. So you had to depend on printed material for learning anything. So that was the very first step when I realized that, okay, you need to continue your learning and grow professionally if you want to survive in this profession. And then came a stage when I realized that, okay, I need to grow further in the career. I've started at the rock bottom, so I need to move up in the ladder, for which I needed to acquire more and more qualifications, without which I couldn't have moved ahead. So my next target was to develop my career, move up in the ladder of my career itself. So I started learning on my own. Well, I must tell you that I'm a DIY person. I strongly believe in DIY, do it yourself. Well, I always change the DIY to LIY, which is learning it yourself. Well, all of us have the capability to learn on our own. All children, all adults have the capability to learn on our own. That's exactly why all of us say that the teacher's role is not to teach, but be a facilitator. Facilitate the learning which the learners will be able to do on their own. And then came a stage when I moved away from the school teaching and went into the college teaching and the university teaching. I moved to the Central Institute of English and Foreign Languages, Hyderabad. And there I had, the institute had a 2-hour-long lunch break between 1 o'clock and 3 o'clock. And most of the faculty would go back home, have lunch, have their nap, and come back. But I chose to stay in the institute. And those 2 hours, I made use of the 2 hours I had to learn things on my own. That's when I started engaging myself a lot in the LIY, learning it yourself. And that became a kind of an obsession for me, to learn continuously. And I told myself, listen, there is so much to learn. You know so little about this language because this is not your language. So you need to learn as much as possible. So that became an obsession for me. And then I also told myself, look, if you have to be in this career, you need to stay up to date. Not really possible, but try as much as possible. And then I started doing a lot of teacher training, and I also got dragged into content development, writing textbooks for developing training materials. That's when I realized that, okay, if you need to do all of that, you need to continue upskilling mainly for content development and training. While I was doing training programs, there were several occasions when teachers or schools and colleges would ask for training programs in areas where I didn't have all the capabilities. So I told myself, there are lots and lots of training demands coming up. And if I have to offer training in those areas, I need to learn on my own first. For example, creative writing is one of the areas where there was a lot of demand for training. And I had to go back and learn this on my own. So my growth and development were out of necessities, out of for career development, or later when it became a kind of an obsession, and also to stay up to date as much as possible. Now, why is it that not everyone choose not to grow? Well, so there are people who are fully content with their performance, and they say that I'm quite okay with what I know. I don't have to do anything more. Another reason why people don't learn further, maybe because there are no systemic demands. The system that you work in, for example, in a government service, well, or in any other system, if the system doesn't demand that you continue learning, you may say, well, I continue to get my salary, so I don't have to make any extra effort to learn anything further. There are others who want to grow, but they don't know how to. And these are people who always wait for training programs to happen. Well, training programs are good to attend, yes, but training programs, as we know, they don't come by easily. And most of the training programs for teachers who are already in service, they are short training programs, 1 day, half a day, or 2 days, sometimes 5 days, but not longer. But we need to learn to grow continuously. And there are a few others who don't feel passionate about continuing their growth or development. There could be multiple reasons why people don't people don't want to grow. Okay, the question is, why should we grow and why should we develop? Well, if you're a language teacher, if you're an English language teacher, we know that the language is not static. It's something dynamic, it evolves. In the last 1 year, the pandemic year, if you look at the number of new words that have come into the English language, enormous number of new words, including what is heard every day, the new normal or the new norm is one of those words that have come into the English language. So the language is dynamic, and it's necessary for each one of us to catch up with the changes happening in the English language. It's also necessary to be aware of the changes in the use of words, in the changes that are happening in the grammar of the language. Also, be aware of the developments in the methods and approaches to teaching the language. And the other reason is we need to look beyond classroom teaching. Well, our job is not just teaching, but yeah, if you're a novice teacher, if you're a beginner teacher, you will be concerned with your textbook and your classroom teaching. Once you've gained some years of experience, you want to look beyond that. What are those areas? I'll look at it in a minute. And the other reason why we need to grow and develop is that we need to continuously upskill ourselves, improve our skills of the language, our ability to listen to, understand, speak, read, write, and improve our knowledge in grammar and vocabulary. Well, if you need to grow, if you need to develop a few essentials, one, a strong desire, which nobody else can give you except that it has to come from within. Another, feel very passionate about it, the deep passion. Well, all of us know of people who feel very passionate about their work. I mean, the first example that comes to anybody's mind is somebody like Bill Gates or Steve Jobs, who were extremely passionate about what they wanted to do in life. So for them, work was never work, it was fun. So we need to enjoy being a teacher and feel passionate about it in order to go. The other thing that we need is the readiness to take on new challenges. Well, if you want to grow, there will be lots and lots of challenges in our path, and our readiness to take on new challenges is another factor. And open-mindedness, yes. Well, as they say, unless you keep the window open, no fresh air can come in. If you shut the window, you're blocking everything. Similarly, if you shut your mind, you're actually stopping everything else coming into your mind. So you need to keep your mind open and tell yourself that I need to grow. In order to grow, I need to first admit that I don't know as much as I should. So once you admit the fact that, yes, I'm not an expert in the English language, there are lots and lots of things I need to learn, and I will never stop learning. This learning is going to be a lifelong, continuous process. Once we agree on that, things will fall in place. The other thing is we don't always learn just on our own. There are lots and lots of opportunities for all of us to learn in collaboration with others. But we need to have the team skills, the ability to work together, partner with like-minded professionals, and continue our learning. And we also need the readiness to make an investment. Well, lifelong learning is a process where we need to make a huge investment. I'll talk about that as well in a minute. Let's look at how to grow professionally. Well, the first step that all of us do is to identify the areas that you want to grow in by doing a gap analysis. Yeah, we need to look at where am I now? What is my current state? What are my skills like? And where do I want to grow? Where do I want to be, which is the desired state? So I need to identify the gap between the two. For example, somebody says, I'm not good at the grammar of the English language. Well, that's a very broad statement. But within grammar, you might say that, okay, I have issues with, or I have difficulties with certain aspects of the grammar, certain topics in the grammar, and I need to learn that. Yeah, that's a gap that you identify. Similarly, someone else might say that, I think I'm reasonably okay as a teacher, but I'm rather worried about my fluency in speaking or my pronunciation in speaking. So how do I improve my pronunciation? How do I improve my grammar? So first thing is identify the gap in your skills and in your knowledge areas, and then decide on an action plan. Yeah, set your goals. So by the time the school or college reopens, what do I want to achieve? Or by December 2021, we are now in February, and in the next 10 months, I want to learn this, or I want to learn these, or I want to achieve these, or by March 2022, or by December 2023. So we need to set goals for ourselves. And remember that we are now trying to drive ourselves. Nobody else is driving us, but we will have to drive ourselves, for which we set our goals. And then we also need to be aware of the other areas related to teaching in which we can grow. This is particularly useful for people who have been in the profession of teaching for a few years. As I said, the first few years of your teaching, you are struggling to survive in the classroom. But once you have learned the art of it, and once you feel confident, your teaching becomes easier. You find that you don't need as much time to prepare yourself for your regular day-to-day teaching. That's when you will start looking at, you would want to look at other areas of teaching. Teaching is the primary thing that we all do, but beyond teaching, instructional strategies, what are the new ways of teaching? For example, we all hear that Finland is probably one country where the whole world is looking at, because we think that Finland is doing extremely well in the field of education. What are they doing exceptionally well? What is it they are doing differently? How do I get to know about it? Well, we don't have to wait for a training program to happen, because a lot of information about Finland and Finland's education system is available online today. Another area that some of us would want to look at is training. Once I have learned the art of teaching, a stage comes when you tell yourself that maybe here is a time when I can also act as a trainer. I remember when I started my teaching career in the 6th year of my teaching career, on one of those days, one of the inspectors came and told me that we're going to have regular meetings every week where teachers will assemble, talk, discuss, and every week we will have one teacher making a presentation, and the rest of us will listen and critique the session. And unfortunately for me, I was chosen to do the first session. And that's when I realized that, okay, this is a challenge to me. So I had to rise up to the challenge. I did that. But then I realized that, okay, this is an area that I must look at, training, because I thought I have the capability, but then I had to build on my capabilities in order to become a better trainer. Another area that some of us would want to look at is content development. I know all teachers do this nilly-willy, because when you teach a textbook, you realize that there are certain parts of the textbook which you find unsuitable for the classroom that you're teaching in. Some of the exercises, sometimes even a reading text, some of the writing exercises, or sometimes the grammar exercises, you tell yourself, I can do this, I can teach this in a much better way without using the exercise in the textbook. So we try and substitute that with our own exercises. Well, those kind of minimal content development, I'm sure every teacher does. But at some stage, when you have gained experience in teaching, and when you're able to look at textbooks critically and critique them, you would want to start getting into the process of content development, which is nothing but authoring textbooks or authoring teaching learning materials. Another aspect that some of us would be interested in is in the curriculum and syllabus design. Right now, the government of India is engaged in the process of revamping the education system. A lot of deliberations have gone through to revise the entire education system. So new curriculum and new syllabuses are being put in place. Yeah, this is another aspect that some of us would be interested in. And finally, not finally, testing and assessment, which is another aspect of the whole teaching process. And lastly, student counseling. Well, these are all specialized areas in the field of teaching. Fortunately for English language teachers, unlike the teachers of other subjects, for the English language teachers, there are ample opportunities to grow in all these areas. For example, the university where I was teaching, the English and Foreign Languages University in Hyderabad, has specialized courses in each one of these. So it's up to us whether which of these areas you would want to pursue more seriously and learn further and become a better teacher or a trainer or a content developer or whatever. Right. In order to do all that, a few common requirements, whether you want to be a teacher or a trainer or a content developer or a student counselor or an expert in testing or whatever, some of these areas are inevitable. We need to improve our proficiency in communication skills, vocabulary, grammar, usage, reading, writing. I want to look at some of these in greater detail just to show you what are the ways in which we can learn and grow and develop further. Just using the first one there, communication skills, which I'm sure lots and lots of people want to grow and develop in, because all of us recognize that communication skills are very, very essential in our teaching career. Not only teachers, everyone else who pass out of universities realize the fact that one of the essential prerequisites for getting a good job is having excellent communication skills. When you talk about communication skills, we are talking about a few aspects of it. One, the accuracy. How do I speak accurately? Accuracy in terms of not just grammatical accuracy, but in terms of pronunciation. How do I speak with accurate pronunciation so that I'm intelligible to anyone across the world? But maybe primarily be intelligible to the community that you are in, also be intelligible to the rest of the country and the rest of the world. Yeah, this is one area which lots and lots of people are terribly concerned about. If you haven't had the fortune to study phonetics as part of your degree or postgraduate degree, you tell yourself, how do I learn this? Well, there are ways in which we can learn this. There are any number of YouTube videos available which teaches the pronunciation, the phonetics. The first thing that comes to my mind is a wonderful video which is available on the YouTube, which is Introduction to Teaching Pronunciation by Adrian Underhill, a person I knew very well. Excellent videos, all for free. You just need to find the time to watch them and learn them on your own. Well, this will be useful for any beginner learner, as well as a teacher, as well as a trainer. There are also online courses. Yeah, today the world has come to a state that, thanks to the pandemic, we all realize that the world has literally shrunk now. And, well, even before the pandemic, there has been a global movement to make education free. Most of the leading universities across the world have been offering more and more courses completely free for learners across the world. So whether you're talking about universities in the US or UK or Australia or Canada, they all offer free online courses, not only in English, but in all other subject areas. And if you're interested in learning online on your own, yeah, all that you need to go to is the Coursera, which is an aggregation platform, or edX, which is another aggregation platform. They aggregate all courses available across the world. So if you sign into Coursera and search for any course that you are interested in, let's say, for example, communication skills for classroom teachers, you will find multiple universities offering courses, many of which are free. Some of them are chargeable, and some of the courses are self-paced courses, meaning you're not learning as part of a group of students. It will say that this is a self-paced course, meaning you learn it on your own at your own pace. So if the course description says you need 12 hours or 20 hours to learn this, it's up to you to find that 20 hours. You don't have to do it every day 1 hour. That's your choice. Or you might say, I have a summer vacation coming up and I have a whole month free. Yeah, in a month, you can actually do 3 courses if you like. And some courses are chargeable, which means you pay a fee, but the fee will be sometimes only for certification. So if you need a certificate at the end of the course, you probably pay a $45 or a $50 fee, but you get to learn you get to do the course and also get a certification from one of the leading universities in the world. And as all of us know, today there is so much to learn that we don't have the time to go and attend courses. So more and more employees are interested in people who learn continuously on their own and who also show evidence of having learned things on their own. There are also course books for learning phonetics and phonology, wonderful books published by CUP, English Pronunciation in Use, a 5-volume by Mark Hancock. Or you also have the other aspect, besides being accurate in pronunciation, in speaking, you also need to be appropriate and fluent. And in order to develop your appropriacy and fluency, once again, you have plenty of YouTube videos available on these aspects. Here, Cambridge again has lots and lots of content available on their website. Yeah, these are some of the sources that, let me just, right. Cambridge and Oxford both have, if you go to YouTube, you find that they have their own videos and their own YouTube pages. So Cambridge ELT or Oxford ELT, if you search either of them, you will find any number of YouTube videos. Another site which I have found extremely useful is Edutopia, which is again a platform where they post any number of videos on classroom teaching, one for teachers to improve their classroom teaching, and also videos on how to improve yourself, your proficiency in the language. Right, online courses, which I talked about earlier, to develop your appropriacy and fluency. There are again plenty of online courses available. And there are also course books which are published by the leading publishers. Just want to look at one more aspect, which is vocabulary, learning vocabulary. Now, how do I learn new words? As we all know, more and more words are being added to the English language every day. And if you look at the total number of words, you would then tell yourself that I know probably a tiny percentage of words. But how do I learn words, new words every day? Well, it's pretty easy. If you are in the habit of listening to podcasts, podcasts, for the benefit of those who don't know what podcasts are nothing but uh, audio files or sometimes video files, short video files published by uh, multiple agencies. Well, there are podcasts on any number of topics on the earth. But if you're a language learner and if you're interested in improving your vocabulary, what you need to do is download this app, which is called Podcasts, and then search for the useful podcast for learning vocabulary. Say, for example, for learning vocabulary on podcasts, two podcasts that I can readily recommend are the one which is called the 6-Minute Vocabulary by BBC Radio, and the English We Speak, which is again from BBC Radio. Both are BBC radios. The English We Speak is a podcast where you find 2-minute or 3-minute audio files, and every podcast teaches one new word, which means if you listen to one podcast, you learn one new word. And if you listen to the podcast for 10 minutes, you learn 5 new words every day. And I regularly subscribe to the podcast from BBC, and I manage to listen to quite a number of them every day. Yeah, this morning when I was listening to the English We Speak podcast, I learned a couple of new words. Let me share with you one of them. I know lots of friends who have small kids, and they keep posting their pictures on the social media. So you see them on Instagram, you see them on Facebook and wherever. And some of them are so highly obsessed that they keep posting these pictures every day, not sometimes every day, but sometimes as many times during the day. And today, when I was listening to the English We Speak, I learned this new word, which is called sharenting. It comes from two words, share and parenting, and the two combined together, the word sharenting. Sharenting is a word used to talk about people who obsessively post pictures of their children on social media. That's a new word. Well, I had to listen to that podcast only for 2 minutes to get that word. So there are as many such new words that you can acquire in a day. And I, for one, I listen to these podcasts when I'm having my breakfast, when I'm showering, and when I'm doing something else where I don't need to pay as much attention. Besides podcasts, there are course books. So if you're seriously interested in learning new words, both Cambridge and Oxford have published a series of English vocabulary in use from Cambridge University Press, which is a series of, which is a set of 3 books. Oxford Word Skills, again, a 5-book set from Oxford University Press. These are course books that you can buy and learn vocabulary on your own. Again, online courses, if you're interested in doing a course in vocabulary development, Coursera or edX will show you the number of courses available on learning new vocabulary. Right. So my growth in any one of the areas depends on my investment of your time, investment of your energy, investment of money, investment on collaboration, and investment on research. Yeah, if you need to be a continuous learner, if you need to grow and develop on your own, you need to find the time. You also need to find that extra energy, because besides whatever you do as a teacher or as a trainer, you also need to do a little more things extra. So you need the extra energy. Uh, Sometimes it involves a little bit of money. Sometimes it involves a little bit of collaboration with others and doing some amount of research. The growth and development plan is make a systematic investment plan. In the financial sector, you are always advised to make investments in SIPs or mutual funds. And I'm saying the same thing, make systematic investment plan, the SIP, not in terms of money, but the financial SIPs, they always have a statutory warning that all investments are subject to market risk. But I can tell you that whatever systematic investment plan you make, these by whoever, it will not be subject to market risk at all. Absolutely no risk, zero risk, and the warning that it will lead to personal and career growth. So I need to find time to make that systematic investment. Yeah, investment time in what? Yeah, let's say I want to invest time in listening and watching. Now, the question that you and I need to ask ourselves, how much of English do I listen to, or how much of English do I watch every day? I know by and large, most people love to listen to or watch things in their own language, the mother tongue, which is perfectly fine. But if you are a teacher, if you are a trainer who wants to grow further in your career and who wants to improve your proficiency in the language, there's no other way to do it better than by listening or watching programs in English. Yeah, so listen to or watch podcasts. The 6-minute vocabulary, which I talked about, the English we speak, and there's one more from BBC now, BBC Learning English Drama, which teaches you the English at work. So if you're somebody functioning in English, whether you're a teacher, whether you are a bank employee or whatever, this last one, the BBC Learning English Drama, is a wonderful podcast for those who have to function in English. What is the kind of English that you need to learn to use at work? So those podcasts are extremely useful for us. There are also talks. And remember, these are all free for us. You don't pay anything to get to these podcasts and talks because they're completely free, except that you need a mobile phone with internet connection, which I guess everybody has. There are plenty of talks which we should be listening to. I personally have subscribed to some of them. For example, the TED Talks, which are globally popular, and the TED Ed Talks, which is especially TED Talks for education, and plenty of talks from Cambridge and Oxford in their Cambridge ELT or Oxford ELT on YouTube. These are all talks that you can listen to and learn to speak better. There are also videos and movies on YouTube and Edutopia. Yeah, I personally would recommend watching movies, English movies, because they help us to learn the natural English. That's where you come across the real spoken English. So you not only learn the pronunciation, the accuracy part of it, but also the fluency part of it and the appropriacy part of it. So I need to invest time in listening and watching. Yeah, this is where I say you need to find that extra time to listen to podcasts every day. So I make it a practice. Every morning I have set aside a half an hour window to listen to podcasts. I've also set aside a 1 hour in the evening to watch movies in English, which I enjoy watching, but then they teach me good English. Also need to invest time in reading, because reading is another area which improves our proficiency in the language. So reading what? Reading articles. Where do I find the articles? What kind of articles should I read? Well, these are some of the sources that you can go to. British Council has this teaching English. These are the URLs which you can copy and paste your search window in Google and get to them. There's this eltoup.com, or British Council has this magazine. Cambridge has lots and lots of articles. And you have this again from British Council for Professional Development of Teachers. Plenty of articles. There is no dearth of material for us to read. It's just a question of finding the time to download some of these and finding the time to read them. Blogs, again, on a language teaching, any number of blogs available, and journals. Yeah, I also want you to look at this one, the last one here at the bottom right, which is firki.com. Firki is a site, is a platform that belongs to Teach for India, TFI. And it's a wonderful source where you can get lots and lots of materials for teachers. And it's, again, completely free. Another area that you would want to invest your time is in collaboration, collaborating with others. So that's where you would want to join some of the teachers' clubs. LTIF is doing exactly the same thing. But besides what LTIF is doing, you can also cross the barriers, cross the boundaries, and be part of the global community of teachers. That's where a club like OUP Teachers Club. So if you go to Oxford University website, they have a wonderful teachers club. Just go and become a member there, and you will get into contact with teachers from all over the world. Similarly, Cambridge has Cambridge Go, which again gives you access to multiple sources, and also takes you or puts you in contact with teachers from across the world. There are also special interest groups, SIGs. The IATFL has all these special interest groups on these aspects: learner autonomy, leadership, materials writing, pronunciation. So whichever area you are interested in, you can pick and choose to be a member of one of these IATFL SIGs. And you get in touch with the other members from different parts of the globe. Also, invest time in certification programs. Some of you who are just beginning teaching, or some of you have just got into teaching, would want to grow further by acquiring new certification programs. Specific programs for teaching related programs are available from Cambridge. Cambridge has the test called TKT, which is a teacher knowledge test, teaching knowledge test, or they have another one which is a certificate in diploma in teaching and training. And then they have CELTL, which is a qualification for teaching young learners, CELTA, which is a qualification for teaching adults, and DELTA, which is a diploma for teaching adult learners. So if you're teaching at the adult level, college level, and university level, CELTA and DELTA, wonderful courses. If you're teaching young learners, CELTL, but these are all paid courses, they are not free. Also, proficiency-related certification programs. If you want to improve your own proficiency in the English language, there are courses, again, from Cambridge at various levels, starting with the A2 key, B1 preliminary, B2 first, C1 advanced, and C2 proficiency. Those of you who have heard about the IELTS examination is one of those examinations which is based on this CFR framework. So at the bottom end is A2 and the top end is the C2, which is a highly advanced level. So if you can actually go to Cambridge website and take a test, a 20-minute test, and see where you are currently. Am I at B1 now, or am I at B2, or am I at A2? Take the test. It's an online test, free test. And at the end of the test, when you submit, you immediately get your result and you get to know where you are. So if you know that you are at B1, then your target will be to move from B1 to B2. Or if you are at B2, then your target will be to move from B2 to C1, etc. So proficiency related examinations, and you can take these exams which are administered in India by the British Council, and you get a certification from Cambridge University itself. There are also other universities offering similar kind of certification programs which are available on Coursera and edX. Right, I know you will now be saying that, oh my God, there is so much to learn. If I have to grow and develop, there is so much to learn and there is so little time. Well, time is the same for every one of us. It's 24 hours. Now the question is, how do you package these 24 hours? Well, the excuse commonly heard is that I don't have the time. Well, people are lying. You have the time, just don't know how to manage your time. And let me show you some ways of how to manage your time. Well, the simple thing is you need to learn to multitask, do multiple things at the same time. This is what I do very often. Yeah, I listen to when I'm cooking. I enjoy cooking, yes. I do some work in the kitchen. While I'm cooking, my ears are plugged and I'm listening to some of these podcasts, which I love to listen to. I also listen when I'm traveling. I also listen when I'm in the shower, and I also listen when I'm in the loo. All these are precious time, and we often tend to just sit there and do nothing. So if you put together those few minutes, you will realize that you're actually stealing 20 or 30 minutes of your precious time, the precious time when you're awake. So try and find as much time to invest in learning and make use of these opportunities. I'll leave you with this quote from Alvin Toffler. You can read it yourself. Yeah, so what is important is for you to learn, unlearn, and relearn. Thank you very much.
What actually have we to unlearn from the type of pronunciation or vocabulary, how we Indians or we Keralites, when we speak English, how can we unfollow the British style? How can we develop our own way of speaking English? Could you please share your ideas on this, sir?
Yeah, as I said, see, our way of speaking is heavily influenced by what we get to listen to. And if you are a person growing up in, as you said, if you're a person growing up in Kerala, you get to listen to the kind of English spoken by the people in Kerala, many of whom have a marked accent. Now, if that's the kind of English that you're generally exposed to, and if you tell yourself that I need to escape from this and learn to speak better, the only way you can learn that is by listening to better English. That's where all these podcasts and the videos that I mentioned come very handy. Because I had the fortune to, I grew up in Kerala, but then I didn't study in Kerala for long. Soon after my school education, I moved out of Kerala, and I had the fortune to go to some of the good educational institutions where I learned much better English. But then ever since I moved out of the state, I came into contact with people from different parts of the country and later from different parts of the globe, and I got exposed to better models. So the question is, what model are you exposed to on a regular basis? If you are regularly exposed to one particular variety of English, well, I tell myself I need to unlearn that and learn better English. The simple thing that I told you about the BBC podcast that I listen to, every day when I listen to these podcasts, I'm listening to good British English. And that good British English, and sometimes I tell myself, oh my God, is that the way the word is pronounced? Why do I pronounce it so differently? That's not the right way I pronounce. So, you need to keep your eyes and ears open and be sensitive to these things, and then tell yourself, okay, I need to correct my pronunciation. One other thing that I used to do, because I was also very keenly interested in pronunciation, I used to spend time some years back. It was a kind of my hobby to spend half an hour every day looking at the dictionary. You pick up the dictionary, open a random page, put my finger on a random word and check whether I know the pronunciation, whether I know the grammar of it. And very often I came across words where I was mispronouncing, or words which I was not using the right way. So all those efforts that I put in, half an hour every day, paid off. So the question of making that effort, one, to listen to and watch good English. That's where the videos and the movies come very handy. And yeah, if you're also very keenly interested in those videos that I mentioned, which are available on YouTube, plus the formal courses on pronunciation and communication, which are available from leading universities. And you can get a certificate or a diploma or whatever from Yale University or New York University or any other university. Okay, somebody is asking a question. Indu, as an English teacher, I've heard so many varieties of English. Won't this affect the learner? Well, learners are generally exposed to the kind of English spoken by their teacher. But I must admit that of late, in the modern world, all our students are exposed to several other varieties on their phone, because they have access to the internet and they get to listen to other varieties. No harm at all, because one thing good to know, that the English spoken across the world is not the same English. I still remember when I traveled for the first time to Britain somewhere in the 1980s, I had a lot of problems in understanding the British English there, particularly the kind of English spoken by the people in the street. I mean, the kind of colloquial English spoken by the people was not at all intelligible to me. So it took a while for me to understand it. Luckily, the children today, the learners, they get to know that there are as many varieties. Well, we talk about the standard varieties, the British and the American and the Canadian and Australian English and Indian English now. But there is also a global movement to bring these varieties together. Those differences between the British and the American, they are slowly disappearing, and these varieties are kind of converging. Except that some vocabulary items are different. For example, now if you ask me which is between the two words, the lift and the elevator, which is British, which is American, I don't know. It doesn't matter, because lift and elevator are understood across the world. Similarly, the American variety, well, some people find it very easy to understand, particularly the young generation today. They seem to be happy to watch the American television shows and American movies. They prefer American movies and television shows to the British ones. But it's a question of exposing yourselves to these models, and you tell yourself, the only thing is that when you listen to these multiple varieties, sometimes you yourself get confused and say, okay, which is British, which is American? Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all. You speak whatever variety, and it may be a mix of the varieties. I mean, you look at the varieties of dialects that you have in your own language. I know for certain that right there in that tiny state of Kerala, you have as many dialects from one end to the other. And if you're a person growing up in the southern end of Kerala, you're not exposed to the northern end varieties. But then, thanks to the movies, all these varieties appear in the movies shot in different areas, and people get to understand these varieties. That's where your listening and viewing and watching has an important role to play. I can see a question from Dr. Abhilash Naik. Is there any scheme of EFLU for training the teachers in the rural areas where the teachers mostly use regional languages to teach English? Well, they used to have a program called the District Centers for English, whereby the Ministry of HRD used to give financial aid and academic help from EFLU to train teachers. I don't know whether that program still exists and whether they're still continuing with it. I'm not sure about it.
Okay. She's asking, could you please explain what is unlearn in this ELT regard?
Well, unlearn, as all of us know, is to forget what we have learned. See, unlearn is in the context of you being able to recognize that you have learned something wrong. For example, to give you a very simple example, if I ask you, how do you pronounce the word atmosphere? The standard Indian pronunciation is atmosphere, right? Most Indians, pan-Indian pronunciation is atmosphere. But when you listen to good English, and if you come across a different pronunciation, for example, some of the television news readers, very often they pronounce the word as atmosphere. And then you tell yourself, oh, why is it that I pronounce it atmosphere and these television readers are saying atmosphere? And you go and check it on in the dictionary, and you realize that, yes, it is atmosphere, not atmosphere. Here's a point where now I need to unlearn my pronunciation. My pronunciation is atmosphere. I need to forget that and learn the new pronunciation, atmosphere. In most cases, the unlearning happens automatically. All of us have the ability, all children and all adults have the ability to learn, unlearn, and relearn. In some cases, if it is classroom teaching, yes, we need to probably make it a little conscious and tell learners, right, you have been pronouncing the word atmosphere, but it is atmosphere. And maybe give them a little bit of training in saying that word as well. So that is something that is, human beings are biologically programmed to learn, unlearn, and relearn. It often happens automatically. It will happen automatically if only you get exposed to the correct version. So if you listen to more and more people saying atmosphere and not atmosphere, the correction will happen automatically. But if the people around you, or if the variety of English that you are exposed to on a daily basis, you get to listen to some of these wrong ways of speaking, your habit will continue. And the longer the habit, the deeper the roots, and they become fossilized habits, and the unlearning becomes very difficult. Unlearning is easier at an early stage. unlearning at a later stage is going to be more and more difficult, but not impossible.
Sir, I was just thinking when you speak about unlearning in terms of VLT, we are also unlearning a lot of concepts or theories that we have learned as part of the teacher training program that we all would have attended.
Yes.
So I think that way the inputs that you have shared are going to unlearn a lot of ideas that we have about English language teaching today. I'm just adding to the points that you were making.
To give you another example, see, when you write a sentence like, all the students must submit their application, or every applicant must submit dash application. Now, what is the pronoun that we use? We very often see every applicant must submit his/her application, right? His or her application, because we don't know who the applicant is. Is it a male or a female? So to address both, you will say every applicant must submit his or her application on or before whatever. Now, that is what you and I learned. But if you are a user of English who read the real English on a day-to-day basis, you realize that more and more people have moved away from the his or slash her. Instead, the his or the her is getting substituted by their. Every applicant. Now, the question obviously is, every applicant is a singular noun, and you're using a plural pronoun. But the newer grammar books perfectly say that this is perfectly done. And because it's very clumsy to have his/her. So to avoid the clumsiness, we are now told to use their. Yeah, here is another case. This is another case where you have to unlearn your knowledge, that piece of knowledge, and place this in that place.
With the COVID pandemic, we have suddenly found that it's become very important for teachers to update this technological skills.
Mm-hmm.
This is also part of CPD.
Yeah.
Like to say something about that?
Well, yes, I agree. These are newer challenges and technological challenges, particularly because many of us were not quite conversant with technologies. So it became quite a big challenge for people to get used to these platforms like Zoom or Google Meet. And also teaching online is an entirely different ballgame altogether. Yeah, one of the websites that I mentioned was the website of Edutopia, which has lots and lots of videos for teachers on how to cope with the new challenges in these pandemic days. But I can also see many other, for example, Cambridge and Oxford both have been addressing these issues through their videos and articles. British Council has been doing it in a big way. I know it's been a great challenge, and I tell myself, if I have to do this online teaching on a regular basis, I don't know how I would cope with it, because it involves so much of preparation. But, before teaching, for every day's teaching, I have to do so much of homework. So all my energy and time is taken away in preparing myself and then teaching. Yeah, and I'm not surprised that everyone is complaining of this new system, then what they call the new normal now. And I only wish that the new normal soon disappears and go back to the old normal situation.
I think the Cambridge assessment had a separate MOOC for learning to teach online.
Yeah.
And even Cambridge University Press was regularly offering webinars on how to teach online.
Absolutely.
I'm Sajida, and yes, I am here to officially give a vote of thanks to our dear speaker, Mr. Rajeevan Karal. So thank you so much for this enlightening talk. I think these aspects that you have shared today are very important from the perspective of CPD, and very relevant to the group, to our community, to the teaching fraternity. Some of the key points which I feel were discussed during your talk, and which I feel that all of us need to carry it along with us in our journey of teaching and learning, is about this entire process of growth and development that you discussed, and how that we all need to also think about the LIY model that you're talking about, which is very important. We always think of DIY, but LIY is very helpful for us as teachers who are now facilitators, and as facilitators we are also required to upskill ourselves, improve our skills. So your talk kind of covered all the aspects of what, how, and why. So some of the points that I also would like to highlight are the aspects of desire, passion, open-mindedness, the team skills. These aspects are very important for all of us as teachers, teachers of English. Similarly, when you spoke about the areas that we need to first identify the gap and improve our areas, I think that kind of a reflection is again an aspect that we all teachers need to keep in mind. Think of our communication skills, vocabulary, and you have given us helpful websites to support us in terms of personal and professional growth. And one very important thing that I like from your talk is about how you have related this systematic investment plan, how you brought that concept into the concept of teaching and personal growth and career growth. And for all that, we need to also be ready to take out the time, which is very important. So managing time there becomes an important factor as well. So once again, sir, thank you so much for for these aspects, for these points. It is really nice to hear these basic ideas that we all need to start implementing. We are all kind of aware of it, but it takes difficult to implement these ideas. And I think these insights are going to help each one of us. So thanks again. And at the same time, I would like to thank our audience. And today we had a full house of 100 participants, which is very nice. And we could see that the participants are very actively engaging in the discussion. So thank you all for being here. So along with the participants, I would also like to express my sincere thanks to Praveen sir, Bhaskar Nair sir, and to the entire LTIF team for organizing the online lecture series of like tonight's online lecture series, and for making it a big success. So thank you very much.
Thank you all. Thank you for your time and your patience. And thanks to LTIF for the opportunity.
Thank you, Sajida. I think, as Sajida mentioned, there is no risk involved in CPD. And so in joining LTIF 2, you stand to gain. So join LTIF, and please join us in giving a virtual clap to Rajeevan for this wonderful lecture.